Let's raise our next big talking point tonight. Should Harvard University be sacking Subramanian Swamy for his alleged anti-Muslim comments? That's our talking point. Earlier this evening, I spoke to Dr. Swamy. And I began by asking the Janata Party president how he responded when a group of academicians and students in Harvard were calling for his dismissal for this article, which is perceived to be anti-Muslim.
Well, I can't respond to it at all because it has not been put to me at all. I know who's behind it. It's the usual left-wing crowd who are connected with those who are affected by the 2G spectrum scam. So they don't know what to do. They can't file an FIR because I'll use the courtroom to show what an idiotic FIR it is. I don't know. It is their importance which is driving them to do this, and that too in a foreign country. If I write an article in India, how is it relevant to what I teach at Harvard? Not a single person from my class has written this.
Are you saying, Dr. Swamy, then that you have no regrets in writing this article?
Well, how can I have regrets? Because these are views I've been expressing for now quite some time, and it has won the hearts of all the Indians who are terrified and upset with these continuing terrorist attacks. They want somebody to give a solution.
So, but you don't perceive this article as anti-Muslim. You are in your article virtually suggesting, if I may say so, the disenfranchisement of the Muslim community if they don't accept their Hindu ancestry.
If you go back and see what I have actually said, I have said that if the terrorists blow up our temples, we should retaliate. And you see, let me tell you, there's a vast difference between a temple and a masjid. Saudi Arabia regularly demolishes masjids. Musharraf had demolished 7 of them to make way for building roads. Masjid is a building for reading namaz. It's not a religious place the way the temple is. So, I mean, these backgrounds I can only explain if there's a full-fledged discussion of 4 or 5 hours.
But Dr. Swamy, do you not think that an article like this could lead to spreading hatred and enmity between communities in a multi-religious country like India?
Only if it is not told in full. The object of these left-wing people is to create animosity in the Muslims who will not read the original or won't have access to the original. And it will get translated into languages, in language papers, and they will think that I have indeed said that Muslims should be butchered or something like that.
But in hindsight, don't you think this article could have been more nuanced? You could have avoided these kind of extreme positions that you seem to have taken against a particular community.
That's the way you see it. You see, I think people in India are fed up with all this nuancing. They want now straight talk. Either, what is to be done. And I have given it. Now, I think the best course would have been to invite me to a discussion with somebody on the opposing view and have a debate. Many universities are supposed to do this kind of thing. But their intention is not that. Their intention is to see that somehow they put me to some embarrassment somewhere, and it is becoming counterproductive because there's such a huge support. You can't believe it, whether you go to tweets or you go letters to the editor or my meetings.
Okay, that was Dr. Subramanian Swamy earlier today. Let's then go straight to our talking point on our panel. Meenakshi Lekhi, lawyer and National Vice President of the BJP Mahila Morcha, is with us. Aditya Sinha is the editor-in-chief of DNA, which published this article. Dipankar Gupta, the country's leading sociologist, is with us, and also Kamal Farooqi, member of the All India Muslim Personal Law Board. Dipankar Gupta, as a distinguished academic and sociologist, do you believe it's right to ask for Dr. Swamy to be dismissed from a US college like Harvard, where he's on a summer vacation, on a summer teaching course, based on an article he writes in an Indian paper?
Well, first of all, anybody who goes there to teach the summer course is obviously not top of the pops in Harvard. And if, for example, Harvard wants to dismiss him, it's up to Harvard, to take the decision. And I don't think it's something that you and I should be discussing at great length. It's up to Harvard to take a decision on this matter.
You believe that that Swamy had the right, the individual right, the freedom to write what he wants as an academic? Do you believe that individual freedom should be respected? Is that what you're suggesting?
I don't think he wrote as an academic. I think he wrote as a caricature of a politician.
Yes.
I don't think it was an academic position.
But if you were in Harvard University today, what would your stand be?
Well, I would say one thing for sure.
Yes.
That there are many people around who could deliver just as well as Subramanian Swamy. Why should I embarrass the university by having someone like him on the rolls? But that would be my position.
You think he's embarrassed Harvard?
Not at all. He would have embarrassed me if I were at Harvard.
He would have embarrassed you if you were at Harvard. Okay. Kamal Farooqi, the National Minorities Commission is calling for action. Other minority groups want to file an FIR against Swamy under section 153A and B of the Indian Penal Code, saying he is spreading hate and disaffection among communities. Don't you think Swamy has the right to free speech? It's an op-ed article that he has written. It's his point of view, as you just heard in that phone interview.
That's right. But please understand one thing, that this freedom of speech does not mean that you can spread the hatred among the communities and you can use the anti-national attitude. I personally feel that Mr. Swamy has committed a crime in the country, and he should be punished as far as the Indian laws are concerned, because 153 and other IPC provisions.
You believe it's a violation of 153 and B? It's spreading disaffection and disharmony.
He is trying to create a factory of the hatred among the so-called Hindutva forces. He is asking the people to demolish even 300 mosques. He is asking the people that the Muslims should not be having the right of the franchise. All these things it is not only against Muslims, it is against my country itself.
Meenakshi Lekhi, as a lawyer and of course now a BJP member, every right is subject to restrictions. Freedom of speech is not an absolute right. When Subramanian Swamy virtually calls for Muslims to be disenfranchised if they don't accept their Hindu ancestry, when he calls on mosques to be razed, is he not spreading disaffection and disharmony?
You see, as per law, and let me clarify, my position is only as a lawyer. Don't bring in BJP, because this is not BJP's position, and I have no instructions from BJP to speak for them.
Right.
So I'm speaking as a lawyer, strictly personal point of view.
Yes.
And we have to see this particular article in a context. And the context is, why do we have so much of friction today between the two communities? Because somewhere the correct history is not being perpetuated. Now, nobody is saying the Muslims of this country should convert to their original religion of Hinduism. Nobody is saying Islam is a bad religion. Nobody is saying Islamists have no right to be in the country. It's just a question of cultural perspective, that India as it stands today has become what it has become under various influences. And those influences have also come from conversion. And this amount of community, the sheer numbers, have not come as en masse raiders the way they had come. And this is a perspective of history which is constantly denied. So that is one perspective.
No, you're giving
a person may have a right perspective, a person may have a wrong perspective.
You're saying it's cultural nationalism. You're saying it's a form not very different from the Savarkarite cultural nationalism that Swamy is voicing. But Aditya Sinha, you published this article in DNA within 3 days of the Mumbai blast. Do you believe that maybe on hindsight you could have been a little bit more discriminatory both in the choice of article and its timing?
Well, Rajdeep, there are a couple of things in consideration. You know, Swamy has been a cabinet minister. He has been an important person. He's had some credibility issues, but in the last couple of years, his persistence with the 2G scam has given him a little more credibility. And frankly, because of his importance, I was a little surprised by the article, by the extremity of the article. But as far as the time is concerned, it was topical in the sense that, you know, we were all shaken in Mumbai by the blast.
No,
but I think that
sir, but you have as a responsible journalist, you have added to the woes of the entire country. In fact, at that particular time, we should not have brought in these kind of articles. I'm not saying that you should not bring it, but please understand that at that particular time, the whole country is facing this agony. What was the need? And please don't, Mr. Swamy was also trying to link it with 2G and 3G. It's nothing to do with 2G, 3G. But that does not mean that if you are raising one issue, you should go into all these stupid things.
Okay. but I don't think it is, you know, you said it's added to disharmony and disaffection. I think that all of you would agree that there is a lot of bigotry in the country.
Right.
It exists in the middle classes, in the newspaper reading classes. And, you know, the bigotry is such that even newspapers reported after the...
No, are you saying you're catering? Are you saying you're reaching out to the bigoted elements, that you want to tap into what that Swamy is a loudspeaker of the grievances of the bigots of this country? Is that what you're saying? Or you are encouraging all these kind of
what I'm saying is that I'd rather have the battle of ideas in the newspaper columns than out in the streets. I'd rather have a debate. You know, after the article was published, we published 8 articles which rebutted Swamy. Now, each of those 8 articles had a very, they each had a good point to make. I mean, they pointed out how unconstitutional the article was.
That's an interesting point. You know, Aditya, you're making an interesting point, because Dipankar Gupta, many would say the way to respond to a Subramanian Swamy in a case like this is, as Aditya Sinha is pointing out, write another article. Why take Swamy to court? Why file an FIR? Why say that we want him dismissed from Harvard? If you have enough muscle, intellectual muscle, respond to Swamy with another article.
Well, the 3 points you've raised here.
Yes.
Dismissing from Harvard, I think, is an academic decision, and it's very little to do with what Swamy does on the side.
Right.
Whether or not Harvard dismisses him is their problem. Number 2, Subramanian Swamy has the right to write what he wants to write, but he doesn't have the right to be published.
Okay.
And I don't see what the DNA editor is saying right now.
The DNA editor is saying that this is one point of view. He wants to reflect that Swamy is reflecting one point of view.
No, this point of view is not as if we suddenly got up and said, my God, we are being violated. This point of view has been there for over 100 years. So what is Swamy adding that is new, except for the fact it is going under Swamy's signature, and they're trying to capitalize upon that. But we are not also so naive as to say that, you know, it should be published in paper so we can all talk about it. This is utter naivety at best. Otherwise, what I really think is happening is that what the editor is trying to do is trying to capitalize on Swamy, raise some heat, some dust at the same time, and make a killing. Number 2, at the same time, I do feel, and I defer to Mr. Kamal Farooqi here, I do feel that by taking him to court is just a waste of time, because there are enough loopholes in our law that he'll come out of it. In fact, there is no direct incitement to violence, which is the most important thing in such hate speeches and hate writings, and which is why Swamy comes out of court, you know, a winner would be much worse than just ignoring him, because something called harm and something called offense. If I choose to ignore Swamy, I think we should ignore Swamy, and I don't see why this newspaper should give him the pride of place.
No, okay, but ignore Swamy. You know, Kamal Farooqi, it's not as if there haven't been equally hateful articles in the past written in the Urdu media, right? You know, we don't come to know of it perhaps in the English media, but the fact is, wasn't ignoring Swamy or responding to him with an equally conclusive article a better way forward?
Rajdeep, both the things are there. Of course, Masar, we should also respond in that way. But at the same time, law must also take its own course, and whether it is Urdu or English or Hindi or anybody,
but whosoever, a Shahi Imam, a Bal Thackeray regularly makes hate speeches in this country. Has anything ever happened?
Prosecute them if they have.
Nothing has happened in all these years.
That is not my problem. That is the problem of the law. In fact,
you see, the problem is.
I'll get Meenakshi and then get yes, Dipankar.
The problem is that with the law is that enough room for Swamy to wriggle out, because you must prove incitement to violence, the immediacy of things, which cannot be proven in this particular case. Has happened in the past as well, by the way.
Okay, so you're saying because there are loopholes in the law, it would have been better perhaps to ignore it. Yes, Meenakshi Lekhi.
Can I intervene?
Yes, go ahead.
Can I intervene?
Yes. Please speak.
Yeah, Rajdeep, when the names have been brought up of Raj Thackeray and Shahi Imam, I want to add another reverend name, that is M.F. Hussain. So if M.F. Hussain, after painting what he painted, could get out, Dr. Subramanian Swamy has not written something that he will be held for.
Right. You're saying, are you saying, Meenakshi Lekhi, that a writer under his own byline
and he can back his article with proper research?
No, if he says, remove the masjid in Kashi Vishwanath temple and the 300 masjids at other temple sites, if he says that we should declare India as a Hindu Rashtra in which non-Hindus can vote only if they proudly acknowledge that their ancestors were Hindus, are you saying that this is the kind of language which should be used in a modern Republican India, and should we be comparing what Hussain does with what Swamy has written?
You see, modern Rajdeep, without intervention, I want to answer this.
Yes.
Modern India has got an ancient history, has got a medieval history. We can't have modern India without acknowledging the facts of tirades which have been happening. We can't have a modern India which does not recognize that temples were demolished. We can't have a modern India which does not recognize that yes, Hindus were converted. We can't have a modern India if we don't recognize the most Muslim population in the country has Hindu roots.
Okay.
And this is a perspective which everyone across board has to understand.
Okay,
and has to understand positively. Nobody is talking about banishing.
You're saying,
and maintain calm and maintain good posturing and live in comity and integration with each other.
Okay, you made your point.
This is where we go wrong, when we pit
made your
one
point
against the other.
Yeah,
we
but,
are constantly trying to divide the communities. I think it's time we all come together as Indians.
I think now you have taken much of the time now. Now please, madam, you are trying to say that of course modern history of India, unless we go into the past, it's not complete. Yes, I agree with you, but don't try to twist the whole facts. Of course, I may be having the Hindu roots, but that does not mean that you want me to give the franchise only if I accept it. That I am a Hindu. That does not serve any purpose.
I don't want you to give the franchise.
The country belongs to everyone. Madam, when you were talking, we were listening. Madam, when you were talking, we were listening. Please, that does not mean that you will ask the people to demolish 300 mosques. You will ask the people to do all those. If you are talking about the temples, India has also had the history that on Buddhist temples we have ruined the Buddhist temple.
But are you saying that India? Okay, are you saying that Muslims are ready to confront their past without this kind? Dipankar, this argument will be made that Muslims must confront their past. It's a very Savarkarite argument. Savarkar said that with Pitra Bhumi and Punya Bhumi, that Muslims must recognize India as their holy land and fatherland. How do you respond? Is there space for an academic debate on this?
Well, there is really no space for an academic debate on this because, every community has done terrible wrongs on other communities. There's no community that is clean and pure. And there's no great person who doesn't have feet of clay. In fact, if you want to be really modern, then I think we should learn to forget the past. No great modern country has ever survived by remembering the past. France would not be France if they continuously remembered what happened on the St. Bartholomew's Day massacre. Yeah. You cannot do it. You have to move ahead because wrongs have been done by every community. And by the way, talking about Hindus and Indian and being Indian, remember there have been problems with Buddhists and the Shaivites and Vaishnavites, all that stuff. But forget about that. Do you know that Hindus have a problem with Aryanism? And we all know the Aryans were not supposed to have come from this country. We all know that Bankim Chandra wrote glowingly about the fact that Aryan blood flows in his veins. All the historians, R.C. Majumdar and so forth, wrote about Aryan blood. So are we saying the Hindus are not Indians at all? And
but Aryans, isn't it better for you to then write a strong article, let's say in a column tomorrow? Isn't that the better way to respond to Subramanian Swamy?
No, I would not even acknowledge Subramanian Swamy as a person worthy of responding to, and that is the way we should respond to him. And may I also say,
yes,
in polite gatherings, we must of course say the thing that present company accepted, but we shouldn't be discussing him at all.
You believe you shouldn't be discussing him at all. Aditya Sinha, you're the one who sparked off this discussion. In the times we live in, would you publish a similar article, let's say tomorrow, by a Muslim politician who spoke about raising Hindu temples, called for Hindus to be denied their voting rights? I mean, would you want to, do you believe that there must be some restraint shown by all of us in the media, be it on television or be it in print?
Because
well, I guess, but the thing is, when it comes to freedom of speech, I'd rather err and be accused of maybe going too far. The thing is that it's very easy to dismiss somebody, right? And a lot of comments I've heard have been very dismissive. But I'll go back to the 8 articles that we got in response, and they were all very good articles. They were well constructed. They demolished his argument, and they showed his article to be unconstitutional.
You believe you've set off a debate? You believe you've set off a healthy debate?
I think so. I'll tell you one thing that I found. The number of letters we got in a ratio of 2-to-1. They were letters against Swamy and letters supporting him in a ratio of 2-to-1. It wasn't 2-to-0, it's 2-to-1. But what it did is, I think a lot of people, in our society, there are a lot of fence sitters, right? And I think that a lot of fence sitters, they were offended by his article, and they decided, they were pushed away by, so they were no longer fence sitters.
Okay.
There are some people, who...
I'm going to give the final word to you, Dipankar, because you are part of the News Broadcaster Standards Authority. Do you believe that journalists should show self-restraint, or as Aditya says, in a sense, Swamy is being a loudspeaker for a particular section which has equal right to be heard?
Well, I don't speak for the News Broadcast Association, but I do believe that journalists have to exercise extreme restraint in every field, whether television journalism or print journalism. And in fact, I would say that DNA, I had a very high opinion of DNA, but I think DNA is a fence sitter in this particular case, because Subramanian Swamy has a right to his opinion, but he doesn't have the right to be published. There's no such right. And the DNA has conflated the right to opinion with right to publish, and I think it's made a big mistake.
Okay, Dipankar Gupta, Kamal Farooqi, Aditya Sinha, Meenakshi Lekhi, we'll leave it at that. Okay, I think you've all had your say. Thanks very much for joining us on this program. Where do we stand? What's the editor's take? This is what we believe. Dr. Subramanian Swamy has done heroic work in exposing the 2G scam. That the same individual should now choose to write an article that is offensive to so many is doubly sad. Dr. Swamy does enjoy the freedom of speech, but free speech cannot be an unfettered right. As an academic, Dr. Swamy has every right to teach in Harvard, but as a responsible public figure, he should have shown greater respect to constitutional principles in a multi-religious society.